Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to give it a minute or so to let people populate and join the webinar, and then we will jump right in with CMT Candid Conversations this afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Good afternoon. On behalf of Citizens for Modern Transit, I'd like to welcome you to CMT's Candid Conversations with Commuters today on what is the status of your ride. Today's conversation will include representatives from Metro Transit in the St. Clair County Transit District, as well as our board chair, DeAndre Braddock, to discuss the impending changes set for November 27th and other questions that we are hearing from riders across the St. Louis region. First, though, I'd like to jump in and welcome CMT's new board chair, DeAndre Braddock, for a welcome and to say a few words. DeAndre?
Thank you, Kim. And thank you to all the CMT board members this afternoon. I would also like to thank CMT's Platinum and Gold sponsors who have made it possible to host events like these to provide important updates to our key stakeholders and the region at large. And those key sponsors include AARP in St. Louis, Bi-State Development Agency, Gonzalez Companies, HNTB, St. Clair County District, BJC Healthcare, Boeing, Bywater Development, Greater St. Louis Inc., HDR, Missouri and Kansas Laborers District Council, St. Louis Realtors, Ulico, and Washington University in St. Louis. Again, these events would not be possible without the support of these important sponsors, and we thank them. In my day job here at St. Louis Community College, I am the Chief Diversity Officer, and I work closely with our students and employees who have been impacted by these route cuts, these changes, and also fluctuations in the transit system recently. These types of conversations that are hosted by CMT provide a unique opportunity for our riders, employers, and operators to have open dialogue about these changes and to have their questions answered. It is really imperative that we work together, regional stakeholders and transit riders work together as we work to address these challenging times and to ensure access to everyone. And I look forward to participating this afternoon, and I'll now turn it back over to you, Kim, to get us started.
Thank you, DeAndre, and thank you to everyone who has joined us this afternoon over your lunch hour. So the discussion this afternoon will feature Ken Sharkey, the Managing Director of the St. Clair County Transit District, Trinice Winters, the Assistant Executive Director of Metro Transit, Jessica Gershman, the Assistant Executive Director of Planning and Systems for Metro Transit, and DeAndre, who you've all met already this morning. Chuck Stewart, the Chief Operating Officer for Metro Transit, unfortunately is no longer available to join us today. He had something else come up. However, throughout this entire 1 hour dialogue, if there are any questions that we don't have answers for today, we promise to follow up and post the answers to those questions on our website and social media as soon as we have them. We know we are in the midst of a transit operator shortage that is plaguing cities across the country. This is not just a St. Louis area issue. For us as the management of the Missouri Public Transit Association, we are seeing this across the state for all of our providers, whether they're rural or urban. However, in St. Louis, we may be seeing the light at the end of that tunnel. Today, we wanted to provide a forum for riders and the general public to ask questions about service changes set for November 27th and the future plans for the bus and the train system. As the Regional Transit Advocacy Organization, we feel it's really important to have a transparent conversation about where we're at and what the future looks like for our riders, as well as stakeholders and our employers in the region. What does access look like moving forward? We have received numerous questions today from riders over the last couple of weeks, but if anyone has any questions today on the call, please feel free to place those in the chat box in the Q&A. Our goal is to get to as many questions as possible today and get you those answers that you're seeking. We're going to start by asking each of our panelists to provide a quick 1 to 2 minute intro on who they are and what their role is within their respective agencies. And then we're going to jump right into conversation this afternoon. So welcome to all of our panelists again. We really appreciate you for joining us for this really important dialogue about public transit in the St. Louis region. And I'm going to start by asking you, Trinice, if you'd jump in and like to introduce yourself this morning.
Sure. Thank you, Kim. And thanks for inviting us to be a part of this session. I do want to start off by saying that Chuck regrets that he was not able to attend this session, as he and our president and CEO, Mr. Toby Roach, they're both at Paraquad addressing some very important issues with that community. Again, my name is Trinice Winters. I am the Assistant Executive Director of Metro Transit. My role here at Metro is I'm responsible for operations, the operations of MetroLink, Metro Bus, as well as Metro Call a Ride. We currently have over 560 bus operators, 89 MetroLink operators, and 120 Call a Ride operators. So my responsibility is to make sure the service gets on the street every day. And we're able to provide that service to our community.
Great. Thank you, Trinice. Jessica?
Good afternoon. Jessica Gershman is Assistant Executive Director of Planning for Metro. So our team is responsible for both the short range planning, those quarterly service changes that you see coming out. We have one coming up later this month on Monday, the 27th, as well as long range planning. So we get to think about how to plan for 1 year, 3 years down the line. We get to coordinate with partners like East West Gateway Council of Governments on those bigger picture regional goals for moving our region. But whether it's short or long range, our team, which also includes the customer service team, so a lot of the folks that riders that might be on today interface with when they call and say, I want to know where my bus is, or could you help me plan this trip? That's that team. We're there for those riders. We're there for improving access in the long run and making sure we are hearing you and taking that feedback and incorporating it into the planning decisions that we make. So I'm happy to be here and have this dialogue.
Thank you, Jessica. Ken, would you like to introduce yourself this morning?
Yes, I'm Ken Sharkey, St. Clair County Transit District, and I appreciate the opportunity on this forum and our partnership with both Metro and Citizens for Modern Transit. Just a few things, just briefly what we've been involved here in the last year and coming year. St. Clair County Transit District is leading the construction for the MetroLink Extension Project in Mid-America Airport. Construction's in full swing. Projected opening date for revenue service for passengers is spring of 2026, just 2.5 years away. The project includes a new frontage road access with connections to the new I-64 Rita Road interchange. It's going to provide more direct access to Mid-America Airport, Scott Air Force Base, and will also provide plenty of developable land for private enterprises to develop within the area. So this is really going to be an economic driver for the region. Also, St. Clair County partnered with Metro and St. Clair County Emergency Management Services to construct a state-of-the-art 16,000 square foot public safety building in Emerson Park, MetroLink station in East St. Louis. The construction is scheduled to be completed by the end of January. And this is a joint public safety measures and intended to improve the public safety along the transit alignment. SCC, St. Clair County Transit District, also partners with Citizens for Modern Transit and many other local organizations to bring about transit stop transformations to 3 different MetroLink stations in Illinois, which include Emerson Park, 5th and Missouri, and the Belleville MetroLink stations. And planned for 2024 is the Fairview Heights MetroLink station transit transformation stop. These improvements to the transit experience has been well received by the public who uses transit, and they enjoy the new relaxing atmosphere that's being created. The bus ridership in St. Clair County has risen over 20% year over year. And in March of this year, Metro, our partner, launched a new bus service in the Sojay Industrial Park, which serves both employers and employees in the area. And that ridership continues to grow. We're going to continue to market that to add more people to transit. And St. Clair County Transit has also increased the transit ridership with the expansion of the Flyer, which is a micro transit service here in St. Clair County. We have 6 mobility on demand zones. It's a premium service. It's on-demand service, and that ridership continues to grow and be well received by the community. And lastly, we just expanded the Chestnut Health Services systems that offer mental health services to people in transit that could be in crisis. They now have 6 full-time and 2 part-time staff serving in Illinois. And we've added a evening coverage shift now, which we didn't have previously. So we have a lot more coverage on the Metrolink system to be able to assist people that are in need of services. So that kind of concludes my remarks.
Great, welcome, Ken. All right, so let's go ahead and jump right in. So we put a call out to riders on social media, through email, and we wanted to hear their questions. The number one question we have received to date around this conversation that we're having today is, what is the status of the single car train pilot? Are there results from the pilot that you can share today? And are there any changes going forward riders should expect? So this single car train is a big question. And so I'm hoping someone can address that this morning for us.
Sure, Kim, I can talk about that pilot. We've heard from a lot of our riders and customers about this, so thank you for expressing your experience with this pilot. It started October 2nd. We originally had anticipated it lasting for just a month, so all the questions lately have been, how much longer is this going on? And like you said, Kim, what are the results? So the impetus for this really has been coming out of COVID-19 pandemic, right? We had experienced resource and manpower like shortages, and we've basically wanted to determine if using a single car can provide any resource advantages or operational efficiencies that we could use either for future planning or in emergent situations, such as a public health crisis. So when we've, deployed this when we've had snowstorms in the past, we basically wanted to take this time to really collect some more data and inputs, qualitative and quantitative, to understand if this is a tool we could use in the future. In addition, we're gathering safety and security data to see if there's any security advantages for staffing with single cars. And of course, rider feedback. So all of that has been compiled, and Metro's leadership team is currently evaluating all of that data. We're hopeful that we should have a decision by the end of this month and be able to move forward. But we have been responding to the needs. So we knew in advance when the peaks were and when we needed to really have a 2-car consist out there. So right now, we do have 9 double cars and 7 single cars. So it's not single cars for the 21 hours of operation, although that is the case for weekends. So we're trying to listen and be responsive. Thank you for bearing with us as we've taken this time to really study this potential change in operations, but please know that we should be finishing that evaluation soon.
Follow-up question, Jessica. Is there a cost savings for running a single car train versus a double car train to the agency?
The thought was, we've looked at that from an energy perspective. So we believe it's minimal and that there are some minor operational savings. Of course, it's also in reaction to manpower shortages if we have fewer operators. So that's not an intentional savings, of course. We would like to be more whole on that side of the shop, and Trinice will be able to talk more about that soon. But yeah, there are some potential operational efficiencies, which was part of what we were studying.
Okay, great. So with that, let's jump into that. So we talked a little bit about the beginning of the operator shortage is a national challenge that we're seeing across the country. And Trinice, you talked a little bit about where the Metro Transit operator ranks are right now today. We've recently heard that the latest class of operators in training is 83. So where are we? You've given us the numbers of how many you have, how many are in, let's call it the training pipeline, and what is your goal? Where do you want to be in January with operators?
Thanks for that question. I'm actually excited to talk about operators. Right now,
that's a new one, Trinice, so we're happy to hear that.
Right. Right now, we have a total of 71 in training because we graduated 12 since last week. We graduated 9 in Metrolink, so now Metrolink has 88. And then we graduated 3 in bus, and then we transferred 1 to bus. So we have a total of 71 in training right now. Our pipeline, Metro, we had a hiring event this past Saturday at the Brentwood facility. We had 135 applicants, and we made over 90 offers at the hiring event. We have 136 applicants, well, that were actually hired, were given offers. So they are in the pipeline. We have, that's for Metro Bus, and we have 63 for Metro Link. No, I'm sorry, for Colorado Paratransit. That's in the pipeline. So we're working hard to get applicants in, and I think one of the most important things are something to note is we have transitioned to a point where our retention rate, 8 out of 10 operators stay this year. 8 out of 10 operators who we have hired and completed training, they actually stay employed with Metro. So we're focusing on that now as well, our retention of operators as well as our recruiting.
So quick follow-up question on that, Trinice. If you're at 8 out of 10 now retention, what were you a year ago, and where are you seeing the losses? Are those individuals retiring, or are those individuals who signed on a year ago and now they're walking away from this role? What does that look like?
Well, retention, we have 2 buckets, right? The ones that were here already, right? The ones that were tenured. So we do have some retiring. We had quite a bit actually, during COVID, during the pandemic, to resign. We had quite a bit to resign. That took us by surprise. So we were losing last year approximately 17 operators a month. This year, we're at under 10 as of now. However, the last 3 months, our average has been 4. The last 4 months, our average has been 4. So we're making strides there. We've put in a mentorship program. We've completed a total rehaul of our training program. So we've done the work internally to try to ensure that we can continue to keep our the talent that we bring in.
Okay, great. So Ken, let's talk a little bit about the Illinois side. Have you seen impacts from an operator shortage in St. Clair County? What does it look like over there?
We actually haven't had an operator shortage here in St. Clair County. When the pandemic came about, there were 18 fixed bus routes being served with Metro V contract for service in the county. And it actually went down to about 12. And we filled those low ridership routes with this micro transit service that has served us very, very well. And then in March of this year, we added that Sojay Industrial Park route, a more frequency from 5th and Missouri, and with the expanded number 2 route, a little bit more frequency to be able to get people to where they need to work. So we did add on that service this year. So we're up to 13 fixed routes. We are taking a look at our Transit Vision 2020 plan that was completed a little bit before the pandemic. And we may institute another service change a little bit later in 2024. And we may also just, try to get another analysis from an outside consultant of some current trends and maybe update that transition 2024. I haven't actually talked to Jessica about that, but it's been on our mind to do that. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. So
If I may.
let's talk. Oh, sure, DeAndre, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask Trinice a question. Given the fact that we have community stakeholders that are participating in today's conversation, and knowing that the operator shortage is one of the biggest challenges that Metro is trying to overcome, what can the community at large do? How can we help support in this effort around addressing the operator shortage, if anything at all?
Well, you can actually, one of my operators, this was interesting. One of my operators came to me a week ago and told me that he must drive close to the college, and he's gotten interest from a couple of college students to drive. So we're asking the community to support us in our hiring events. Our next hiring event is December 9th at North County Transit Center. We have a full staff on hand and we're hiring on the spot. And our goal is to get applicants from hiring to class in 30 days. So December 9th, if we can get the community to support us by referring people to the hiring event, and we are desperately hiring for mechanics as well. So that's our biggest, that's what we're looking for, operators and mechanics at this point, so.
Great. Is it possible before this is over to throw in a link into the chat so then folks on today's call know where to go to find more information on that event?
Sure.
Thank you.
So quick question, this is just out of the blue, but we have the community college on the call and we have Bi-State and St. Clair County Transit District. Is there any thought of actually holding potential hiring events at some of the community college sites when we know that they have full classes on those days, or we know that there will be a lot of people coming and going on those days? Is there any thought with partnering with the community college about the openings at Bi-State Metro?
That is a wonderful idea, and I will be in touch, but that's a wonderful idea.
Let's talk.
Great. Great.
Yeah, Trinity,
Jessica,
I was just gonna note that one of the innovative partnerships was hiring right at Barnes Care, right? I don't know if you want to, so we do some on our facilities on these monthly events, but that was like a genius idea to kind of eliminate the time between the testing that's required for becoming, getting your DOT license. I don't know if Tracy, you want to talk about that.
Yes, that experience has been great. We held 2 hiring events, one at Barnes Care on the off of Manchester and Kings Highway in the city, and one in West County, and they were attended. We hired close to 80 at each event. And the good thing about having those events at those locations is because, again, we can test them right there. Part of why it's hard, some of the barriers is we have a hard time getting people to go to Barnes Care after we hire them anywhere else. So this will break down that barrier. They will be tested and they will be evaluated for their DOT at that location as well, that same day. So
great. Thank you. And as a reminder to those who are joining us today, please make sure to place your questions in the Q&A or the chat box if we haven't gotten to them. I have a whole list of them, but if there's others out there that are being generated through the conversation, please feel free to place those in there. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the November 27th service changes. What does that look like in Missouri and Illinois? What should people be aware of?
So the November 27th changes are going to be pretty minimal. On the Illinois side, there are some routing changes to the 1, the 4, and the 5 that will impact the St. Louis riders. That's to improve travel times. The Missouri side, again, a lot of it was based on operator feedback when we have a 12-week planning cycle for these quarterly changes. So the matching up the pace of our recruiting and hiring with the advance notice needed to make these decisions doesn't always line up perfectly. And so we are adding a little bit of service, again, mostly due to operator and then also rider feedback about routes that need more layover time at the ends because they're getting more crowded because we're seeing an increase in riders. And so those buses that we had kind of scheduled to move more quickly through traffic, let's say 2.5 years ago, we need to add back some more time. So we're making schedule adjustments of that nature. So there will be only very modest service increases. And now we are planning for what we can do, in the coming months, now that we have, more of the operators in hand and the numbers that Trini's, we can make sure those recruitment and folks getting through in full training classes can get on the street and get behind the wheel.
Great. So a couple of questions around that. Is there ever any consideration, and this came in, of reducing the service changes to 2 times a year or 3 times a year? Because a quarterly changes sometimes impact a number of riders. We're hearing from them, I just get used to my bus and then there might be another change. So is there any thought to spreading that out a little, Jessica?
So it's in our contract with our union partners at ATU Local 788 to have 4 service changes a year. So that would need to be negotiated at the next time of contract. Would we want to reduce that? Prior to the pandemic, that quarterly change, it was down to an art and a science, I'd say, but there was we are constantly hearing from customers about missed connections. Boy, could this be 5 minutes different at the Maplewood station? So we welcome the chance to kind of get those things right for folks. It does feel like a lot of change, obviously, now. So I hear you on that. Janice, did you have anything to add about that? I believe we're kind of locked into that quarterly change for now.
Yes, we are.
Okay, so let's talk about November 27th. One of the questions we received is, how will that service change impact call a ride services on the street or paratransit services in Illinois?
Good question. So it won't change the footprint. We are not expanding geographic coverage for our bus network until we are more whole on the call ride side, because those ADA denials are, of utmost importance, and making sure that we can serve the folks that are already calling in to request rides every day. So we're holding steady on the level of service that we'll be able to provide for call ride at this time.
Okay. So question, DeAndre, for you, because you represent a different constituent base. What are you hearing and seeing as the biggest concerns from students at St. Louis Community College or others around transit right now with regards to service on the street?
Yeah, so at St. Louis Community College, we have 4 main campuses that are spread throughout the St. Louis region. And so the campuses are impacted differently, the students and the employees on those campuses. One of our campuses at Florissant Valley, I believe bus service stops there at 8 p.m. Monday, every week, every day of the week. And so that's a challenge that unfortunately has been difficult to overcome for some of our students and employees. And so what's happening is they're finding alternative forms of transportation. And I do have this concern that we might lose them as it relates to, utilizing public transit moving forward. As people have to adapt and shift to other modes of transit or transportation, they might leave public transit behind them. And that's definitely not ideal. And so they're looking for viable alternatives. And there are some great resources on Metro's website in terms of Lyft and, discounts and whatnot. Which help in some cases, but unfortunately not in all. But I do have full faith that Metro is doing its absolute best to address those service cuts, but the impact is still very much felt.
So talking about the impacts of service changes and frequency, and this used to be a process, but is there any thought to actually survey riders? There used to be the onboard rider survey on a regular basis. What would that look like? Would that be across the system in Illinois and Missouri? Is there any plans for that? Ken, are you doing anything to hear from your riders directly? Metro, what does that look like? How can riders weigh in? And is there any thought to doing a more comprehensive onboard rider survey?
Yeah, I think we can do more of a formal survey, but we do have a couple of St. Clair County ambassadors that required to ride transit, and they bring feedback to us. They talk to the operators daily and bring back suggestions and ideas. In addition to that, I do have a monthly meeting with Chuck Stewart, who couldn't be with us today. And when we meet on transit. So this last month when we met, we rode the Memorial number 14 bus. So we get an opportunity to conduct our monthly business and also interact with the operator and the riders on the bus. And I just would like to jump back real quick on the paratransit. In St. Clair County, the paratransit service, we contract with Southwestern Illinois College to perform the paratransit service known as ATS, Alternative Transportation Systems. And, they're not missing any of the rides over here in St. Clair County. Fortunately, everybody's been picked up. We're fully staffed, have adequate buses, and they do go beyond the three-quarter mile mandated area to pick up people outside the area. So we are providing an additional service. And also with the microtransit, we're finding out that a lot of the paratransit riders are using the microtransit as an improved service because they don't have to schedule their ride a day in advance. They can just have the app or call the reservation system, and somebody will pick them up in 10 minutes and take them anywhere in the mobility on demand zone or to a Metrolink station. So that microtransit has served the paratransit community in our St. Clair County much better.
Might I add, Kim, I'm so glad you asked about an onboard survey because we were due to do one just around when the pandemic was hitting, and so it's been postponed, but we are in the process of scoping an RFP for a competitive bid so that we can robustly survey, again, all modes. So not just, a fare survey on Metrolink, but we're talking all modes that Metro provides, both sides of the river. And so it'll be more comprehensive look and data that we desperately need, not only about fare, but also about origin and destination, where people are going and their travel patterns have changed, goodness, in the last 3 to 5 years. And so we're really excited to get that going and have this surveying hopefully conducted in early 2024 such that we have results to work with later next calendar year. So I'm glad you asked about that. And beyond that, we've got this great consumer engagement team that's part of our marketing and communications division here. And so they're always ramping up community engagement, obviously a lot in partnership with you at CMT. But as we do future planning for 2024, there will be some more public processes. Of course, anything that St. Clair wants to do, we do that robustly as well on the Illinois side of the river. And, when you just ask about avenues for public input, the formality of an onboard survey is a necessity, but we always have these other channels open, contacting our customer service and engaging with our quarterly pulse survey. There are some things that we regularly have available, and we welcome all that feedback. And trust me, it gets baked right into our planning decisions.
Okay, so let's do this scenario, Jessica. You're on the bus or you're waiting for the bus doesn't show. What's the best way for feedback if this is a regular occurrence at your bus stop? How should that rider get a hold of Metro?
So they can call or text transit information if it's while our customer service line is open, and get those, and I'll put those in the chat, those numbers, but find out immediately from one of our representatives who can check our automatic vehicle locator system, tell you what the expectation is, figure out if there's any alternative forms that we can offer or other routes that you can quickly access to get where you need to go. Outside of those customer service hours, which is 7 a to 6 p Monday through Friday, you can also call in and be connected to operators and security personnel, and they'll try their best to not really plan a trip for you or give you real-time information, but if you're in a pinch, try to book you a Lyft ride or help connect you with sort of the urgency of the situation you're in at that time. So in that case, going through customer service is the best avenue.
Great. So Ken touched on it a little bit that microtransit in Illinois is really helping to fill the gap with paratransit, but also this on-demand service is helping to build ridership in Illinois. One question that came in is, are there any plans to expand VIA on the the Missouri side of the St. Louis region and allow them to cross zones to help fill that last mile gap?
So cross zones. Today we have a north zone, a south zone, and a west zone. The north and south are each approximately 40 square miles each. Microtransit is originally designed, again, as this good questioner asked, as a first last mile solution. So we've kind of gone beyond the appropriate geography or footprint rather for an efficient way to run, the most efficient way to run microtransit. We've needed it right now to supplement bus service, but as we go forward, we're in our 4th year with VIA, and we will be competitively putting out for bid another microtransit service for VIA and others to hopefully bid on and sort of start fresh with a new service in 2024. So crossing zones, I understand the request. but it is important for us to use microtransit to connect people to either core destinations, transit centers, or major bus lines and routes or train lines. So we're looking to connect people to our fixed route system, not so much be able to allow someone to traverse our region in one of those. We use Chrysler Pacific because Ken's got a variety of vehicles on the Illinois side, but that does get more costly. And so I don't imagine a world where, for instance, there's a caller all around outside of 270 and you can get anywhere outside of there. I think that is probably not feasible, but we are redesigning that. Interested in customer feedback, and VIA has been growing. Actually, DeAndre, I was going to mention for that Flow Valley campus, we in July, I believe, opened VIA up north of 270 to include daytime service as well. So I know it's not the same as the 74 or other buses going into campus, but that VIA option is there, and it really helps us to. We do rider surveys on the VIA side too, helps us to understand how to better design that, but our intent is to support and feed the fixed route system.
Great.
Does that help?
Thank you, Jessica. So let's talk about ridership on the system. Nationally, we're hearing that systems are starting to see an uptick in ridership on their systems. In Missouri alone, we have a couple transit properties that are now seeing their ridership at or above pre-pandemic levels. So what does ridership look like in St. Louis and on both sides of the river? What does that look like? And what are your goals for 2024 with regards to ridership?
I think
Anyone want to jump in?
Yeah, Ken, I don't know if you want to speak to that too, but we've been seeing year over year gains of about 5 or 6% on the whole. System wide. So it is not a huge bounce back post pandemic, but we are continuing to see steady ridership gains, and that's reflected anecdotally from Trinice's team. Operators are telling us, wow, I'm starting to see passenger loads on these routes again, and that's been happening for probably the better part of 6 months. We've really been seeing a bounce back there. So we're planning for and anticipating, part of the full court press on recruitment, retention, and training has been to make sure we're ready for that bounce back. So overall, the trend is up. It's not astronomical, and we're preparing to make sure we're scheduling and adding service where we can to accommodate that increase.
Okay. Ken, did you want to jump in? Your microphone is off. You gotta love technology still, right?
So the St. Clair County ridership's up 20% year over year on the bus side. So we haven't experienced, any cuts in the service for Metro Bus in St. Clair County. We did add on this new service, also the Route 3 in the industrial park. And, we backfilled the other low ridership routes with this microtransit service, which has actually gained more ridership. So an example of that would have been, I'm sitting here in the Belleville Transit Center right now, and it was at one time served by the Metro 17, and that was basically a 70-minute loop that went around the Belleville corridor, and that was running about maybe 30 or 40 passengers a day. And part of our Transit Division 2020 plan identified this as a possible microtransit zone, and when the pandemic came, we just kicked it in. And right now we're carrying about 160 to 180 a day. So we're fivefold, sixfold what the ridership used to be. And it's getting people point to point where they need to be. I talked with a rider one time who worked over at the hospitals in St. Louis in the Central West End area. And, it takes the Metrolink here, and then you used to have to catch that 17 bus. Now he gets this microtransit. He saves 20 minutes a day each end of the shift, on the beginning of the shift and at the end of the shift, because he's got this microtransit to be able to take him directly to his home, where he doesn't have to wait around for a fixed bus to come around to pick him up. So if you can imagine getting 40 minutes of your day back, and everybody's busy with their life, that's a lot. So he really appreciates the service. And it's we hear those stories all the time. That's just one story.
So let's talk a little bit about service. We've had exciting news, Trinice, to hear about all the operators, you know, the growing number of operators. What we hear from riders a lot, and what one question that came in over and over again is, so if all these operators are coming to the agency and they're increasing their operator ranks, when will they increase frequency and service on the bus, the train, call a ride? What does that look like? What can we look forward to in 2024? Will there be increases in service? And Ken, you talked a little bit about potentially adding a route or tweaking a route. What does that look like about putting more service back on the street, expanded service, higher frequency?
So now Jessica team is working on adding frequency to service. We're looking at winter, sometime in January possibly, instituting an interim pick so we can add some frequency on the service. By that time, we're anticipated at having over 600 operators. So we will have the operators in order to do that. That's our goal, is to add the frequency.
Yeah, no.
Will this be?
Oh, go on.
Oh, go ahead, Jessica. I'll ask my question. You might answer it.
Well, it would be in areas where, just speaking to your ridership question, just to add, there's areas where we've had to contract service frequency, not because it wasn't warranted, but because, you know, we couldn't swing it. And so those will be our target areas. There's routes in North County that we'd really like to get from 60-minute headways back to 30s. There's routes in the city that we're seeing, again, that increased passenger load. And so the immediate solution will be slotting in as much frequency as appropriate to fit our manpower. And then to be able to, in future quarterly service changes, schedule in a way that is better incorporating operator feedback to, again, make those routes work and be, you know, basically create more space for the additional number of passengers that they're picking up at stops that might not have been the case a year ago. But I just wanted to take a moment to kind of put a plug in for a longer term 2024 effort that we've been working on, where we're basically trying to reestablish the core principles of frequency as a landmark or sort of a bedrock principle for strong transit service. We know that that improves access. We know that it improves people's ability to sort of spontaneously use the system, kind of like what Ken said. If you had a way where you could get yourself back 40 minutes, wouldn't that change maybe the way you move throughout your day? So what we're working on with Trinice's operations team is building a network that establishes those routes that will, you know, be protected at a higher frequency and will be protected with making sure operators are driving those routes to do our best to not miss trips on those, because we know they miss perhaps, you know, 50% or so of our ridership are on about 10 or a dozen routes. So trying to prioritize those routes again is a goal for 2024, which hopefully will come as welcome news as we build back up, that we are kind of like putting that spin on that priority for our riders that might be on the call today.
Okay, that was you hit my question, Jessica. I figured you would. So really it was, which routes would you focus on first? And you talked about those 10 priority routes. And you know, we hear all the time that using the system would be so much easier if the frequency could be brought back, especially from 60 to 30 or 30 to 15, so that it makes it really an easy access to that transit. So I think that's great. So question. When we're looking, we've heard a lot about in the last week or so, new investments that are being made in Missouri and Illinois, I believe, through the transit agency Metro around transit, including scheduling software, phone systems, and an ADA consultant. Could someone flush that out a little bit for all of us out here as to what exactly you're talking about, especially for riders who may be scheduling rides or calling in? What does that look like, and what is your goal with those investments?
Sure, I'll take that. We're currently working with Trapeze, who that's the software we have at Paratransit Pass software. We're currently working with them to upgrade that software. that will give us more flexibility as it relates to planning your trips or making reservations, as well as informing our customers when we're about to arrive. So that software, we're working with them on that. We're also we're not looking at it, we're doing it. We have upgraded our phone system, but we're adding a phone tree through our IVR service for paratransit that will allow customers to get directly to the areas they need to get to. If they need to make a reservation, it will take them straight to reservation. If they need to talk to someone because they have a question about the service, it will take them to that customer service area. So that should be on board pretty quickly. I'm hoping within the next month we will see that implemented. And then also we have at the end of this month, we've hired a consultant. His name is Jess Segovia to look at our ADA service. He's going to do compliance reviews on all 3 modes: Metrobus, Metrolink, and our paratransit service. And he'll look at all 3 modes to make sure our service or equipment is built for our environment. He's going to look at our operating policies, our training, our compliance, as well as our rider education components. So those are 3 other things we're doing that will encompass Call a Ride. On the Metro bus side, we're working with Bontas, which is a trapeze company as well, on upgrading our AVL equipment, AVL tool software, which will give us additional customer amenities through our transit app. So if we were to reroute our service, you'll be able to see it on the transit app, where the bus would be rerouted, things like that. So we're constantly working with our vendors to improve the customer experience as well as the management experience in houses. So that's what Jessica, do you have anything to add to that?
No, ma'am, I think that covers the big investments right now.
So we did have a question on other investments specific to the repairs and upgrades on the system from the flood. What does that look like? What is the status of the fix really to what happened during the historic flooding?
Do you want to? Oh,
so
anyone?
We have the signal house in place at Forest Park. We're waiting on a panel to some panels to come in that will help, that will finalize that project. So that's the last portion before we go back to pre-flood service on our Metrolink trains. So hopefully, if we, as I spoke about a service change in January, possibly, that will coincide with the Metrolink as well, based on that equipment being in place.
Okay, great. Thank you, Trinice. So going back to on-demand services and VIA, and Ken talked a little bit about what VIA and the St. Clair County Transit District Flyer look like there. And Jessica, you touched on it a little bit. Is there any thought in the future for Metro partnering with agencies like VIA or Lyft to not require the destination to be transit, but making it a partnership in areas where there may be limited service, like Far West County, for people to use Uber and Lyft as a part of the kind of mobility management as a whole? Or where does Metro stand on that?
Sure, yeah, and I'm sorry if I was unclear earlier. So we don't currently require, we don't have, some people that have some transit properties across the country do require transit of fixed route as either the origin or the destination. That is not currently a requirement, but it's something that we're having to explore, perhaps to control demand, because we've seen it explode in the last year or so. But I hear what you're saying. So a couple of things. We are able to change, not on a dime, but pretty quickly, boundaries of those zones. So for instance, we're working now with a couple sheltered workshops to say, that north zone is really, really close to Lighthouse for the Blind. Maybe if we can change the boundary and make sure it is included, then that might open up sort of work trips for some folks to reach their employment. So we're definitely responsive to employers and particularly ADA advocates that are looking for this, not as a one-to-one substitution for call ride, of course, but as a supplement, and particularly as we rebuilt the paratransit workforce on our end. With regard to West County in particular, I'd say that I understand that with the sort of land use pattern and the density that microtransit does have more of a place, we've kept that zone there for that reason. So it's an area that we can keep exploring and working with partners on what would be an appropriate way to use microtransit in parts of the county. But we're interested in testing it in parts of the city as well. I mean, in smaller, more discrete markets, it can have a real value to make sure we are feeding the fixed route system. And yeah, I guess to your larger mobility solutions question, Trini's alluded to it as we talk about the importance of sort of making sure we are working with our ADA partners on these solutions. A couple of our colleagues were at a workshop yesterday talking about sort of long-term grant planning and ways of thinking about working together to serve these kind of niche mobility needs. And so there are more options at our disposal now, and we're completely open to those conversations. And hope they'll continue, or they will continue going forward. So, you know, sometimes it's just a conversation where we're helping 5 people who used to rely on call ride that are having a harder time right now understand how to use VIA. And that's a small win, but it's a win. So we'll keep those up.
Okay, great. Thank you. DeAndre, you represent lots of riders, stakeholders at St. Louis Community College. What would be your one wish for 2024? What do you want to see for the riders at the school, at the different campuses for St. Louis Community College? What would be a win for you in 2024 for public transit?
Wow, that's a great question. I'm also trying to make sure it's a realistic.
It could be a small win. We'll take small wins.
Yeah, I would say that at the very least, to see some level of service restoration, especially as it relates to our Florissant Valley campus in North County, that again, I believe the bus service stops there around 8 p.m. Also, there's been kind of I think a shifting of the bus stop, and we have some students that are having to traverse an employee's a pretty busy area to get to that bus stop. And so I would say that understanding that it's likely going to take time in order to fully restore service across the system is at the very least having hope, knowing that we're starting to see more bus routes come back online, higher, frequencies, of course, call a ride, making sure that you can get more people struggling with accessibility concerns and challenges connected to where they need to go. I know it's going to take time, but just seeing progress on this issue, I think would go a long way in restoring some confidence across our region. And particularly, knowing that we have one campus that is disproportionately impacted compared to the other 3, just seeing that service restoration to some degree in North County, I think would be really important.
Thank you, DeAndre. So we just have one question come in. Have there been any lingering impacts of the hacking event? We've heard that it impacted the transit app and it was down for a long time. Is that fully functional again, or have there been any continuing impacts from that event? Or I guess I should call it cyber attack, probably not hacking, but I'll leave it up to you guys.
Right, so there were some systems that were proactively shut down by our IT team out of, abundance of caution that they had to test and be careful to bring back up. So that's what impacted the GTFS speed and the real-time information. Everything, to my knowledge, system-wide is back up, and the from my perspective, we're in part responsible for collecting and reporting data. That's my own little problem, that we have some days that we have to figure out how to recover that time that was lost. But in terms of the customer's daily experience, that was really great to get transit back up and transit app back up, and we appreciate everyone's patience with us. But everything should be restored. And, you know, it was a tremendous effort from our IT team to kind of be really diligent about that in recovery. Trinice, did I miss anything? ABL was the big one for us.
So everything's backed up.
Okay, great. So Ken, you talked a little bit about in your opening comments about the transit transformations. What station do you have underway now, and how can people find out more?
I guess on our website and your website, Kim, we could find out more about that and complete a survey. I think last updated, you had over 200 responses from the survey, which is very good. It's exceeding the last ones we did. And, you know, we're just looking forward to bringing this project forward in 2024. We've got good commitment from our board, and we have some other local municipalities, I think, to have an interest in it. It's a matter of trying to fundraise a little bit more to make it a little bit nicer. I think we're going to have maybe a little bit more design. I'm not sure how this is going to come out exactly. It'll probably be a little different than the last 3 we did here in Illinois, I would assume.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ken. So a final question before I ask all of you to leave us with one final thought as we move forward into 2024. But what is the status of the 8th and Pine and Convention Center Metrolink enhancement projects? Those have been talked about for a couple of years now, renovating those stations. What does that look like? Will renovations happen? And if so, when will they happen?
Yes, they will happen. Those contracts are currently going through procurement, and the estimated completion date is May of 2024. So we should see the transformation happening, or construction, early January.
That's great news. We're going to shout that one from the rooftops, Trinice, for that as well as the other investments. Okay, so we are about out of time today, but I always like to leave a couple minutes at the end for each of our panelists to leave some remarks. What do you want people to walk away from this dialogue, this conversation that we had today about service changes to the region? What do you want to leave them with? DeAndre, would you like to start?
Yeah, so actually I'll try to connect your, you know, the kind of final thoughts with the question that was thrown into the Q&A. But specifically the question that was thrown into the chat was about the college and whether or not we're exploring any options to connect our students between transit locations and our campuses. And I'll say this, that we're actually moving forward in partnership with Citizens for Modern Transit to administer a survey to our transit riders to really understand how our community here at the college has been impacted by the service cuts and reductions, and what challenges they're facing and what we can do to overcome that. And so that's going to be really important data to determine what we should be doing to help address that need as an institution. And so I'll use that just to kind of get to the final remarks, which is, I think it's fair to say that many communities are disproportionately impacted by these cuts. And I want to say that I understand why they're occurring. I really have seen it from Metro's leadership that you are doing what you can to address this challenge. And I appreciate the creativity. I appreciate the ongoing effort and attention that you're paying to this operator shortage and addressing this. I know it's not lost on any of you, the challenges that we're seeing in our region because of these cuts. But I do think it's really important for people to have faith in Metro and the fact that you are really trying everything you can to address this. And so knowing that our communities are disproportionately impacted, we need to make sure that you're aware of that as well. So as you're making those decisions of what areas to restore service, that you have that information in mind for those decisions.
Thank you, DeAndre. Ken, final comments from the Illinois side before we wrap with the Missouri side?
We've just been making a lot of capital improvements to the systems here in Illinois. Each and every year we try to upgrade a parking lot in Illinois. We've done 4 already, and we have those ongoing projects. You know, we've put in the LED security lighting at all the Metrolink stations here in Illinois. We have 28 active projects with Metro where we commit local matching dollars, which sometimes 20% or 5% of the total amount. So that's $7 or $8 million that we've currently got invested of local tax money. So those projects are well exceed $50 million. So they're leveraging federal funds to be able to bring those improvements here in Illinois. And we're very supportive, and we appreciate the partnership with Metro.
Thank you. Trinice, Jessica?
Well, I'm just going to give a plug that if you're looking for a career change, try Metro. We have every career there is here. I am focused intentionally on the retention and the recruitment of of new talent. So I'm being very serious. If you're looking for a career change, please give us a try. You can reach us. The website is in the chat, or you can give us a call. You can give me a call directly if you want to. So if you're looking for a career change, please give us a try.
Great. Jessica?
I would just wrap with, I appreciate DeAndre's comments about being patient and sticking with us. You know, we are truly in rebuilding, and part of our strategic planning for service for 2024 is relying on 3 R's: reliability, resilience, and relevance to our community. So we know that we have not been as strong as we need to be in these areas, but we are, for sure, one thing, it's that change is going to happen. Change is a constant, right? We've been hit with public health crises and environmental crises and workforce shortages. And so what we're trying to do at Metro is establish a more predictable and reliable cadence of how we have to change should we be faced with those resource limitations. And I want to give riders and folks hope that we're, like Trini said, we're very serious about that, and that we're going to be implementing that in the coming year.
Thank you. I want to thank all of you today for your frank and honest conversation around some of these questions that we have been given today. I think it, you know, as a transit agency representing riders, we are very aware that there is constant dialogue around service on the streets. And so we really appreciate all of you taking the time today to answer some of those questions. And hopefully, you know, our goal is to host another candid conversation with commuters in late February, early March, before that next service change that's expected, to make sure we can keep this open dialogue and allow people to ask questions about the rides that they're depending on, whether it's access to jobs or education or healthcare or every day. And it's critical that the riders get to have their say. And so I really appreciate all of you for joining us today. I do want to let everyone know that a recording of today's panel will be available later on our website at cmt-stl.org. Also, jump on our website if you have any other questions or want to see other upcoming events. They're all listed there. And if you have additional comments or questions and you want to route them through us, we're happy to try and get those answered for you. And we will post those as well as a part of the recap of the recap blog of today's event. So again, thank you all for joining us today for this really important conversation. I would be remiss if I did not say, if you're not a member of CMT and you see the value in public transit in this region, please consider joining us. This is our 40th year as an organization, and we would love to have you join us as one of our members as well. So thank you very much, everyone. Make it a great rest of your day, and we will see you in 2024. Thank you.